Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Here we are finally after
Yep.
almost 15 minutes of trying to make Zoom work for us. I don't know what that was about, but
Exactly. I mean, we have so many new things going on in every area of our life right now that not everything is operating on a smooth, seamless flow pattern here.
it's not. But you know what? To our topic today, if you kind of have a plan set out, you can kind of roll with the punches a little better instead of like just being always reactive, and something that goes wrong can like throw everything off because you're just reacting to everything all of the time. So I think it kind of fit in well with what we wanted to talk about, right?
100%. So you and I connected actually through a Facebook group. We've never met in person.
Yep.
And we started chatting and realized that we had a lot to offer folks out there who are in our position, which is that we are working full time. We have our kids at home and we're trying to juggle businesses, work, family life, homeschooling, kind of all this chaos going on. So we wanted to get on a Zoom call to just kind of offer people some really solid, grounded solutions for how we can start to shovel out of some of this chaos that's happening in our mutual lives.
Yeah, and totally. And the way you start your morning can set the tone for the whole rest of the day. So we talked about doing that because you have a particular routine that you do in the morning, and that's kind of one of my things. Is that's what I coach on, is setting routines for yourself to help you like make a template for what you're going to do.
100%. So do you want to just share with us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah, and I am a home management coach at The Home Shift. And when we're allowed to work with people in real life, I'm a professional organizer in people's homes. And what I do as a home management coach is I help you set up routines that work with the way your life works. And we go through and we take care of all the things that you need to do to run your home. So decluttering and organizing and cleaning and chores and family schedule and all of that stuff. We get it set up to work for you.
Incredible. That is definitely something I need help with. So my name is Janis, and I am a movement specialist. I own a studio called My Body Couture. Like you, I have a real life practice. I have a commercial space where I work one-on-one with people to feel better in their body. In this world, everything is being done digitally. So that is a huge shift. Let's start with that. Just let's talk about that huge shift from real life to digital life and what that looks like in terms of your job and my job.
Sure. Why don't you start us off? Because I think you were affected a lot more than I was, because you have daily classes. You see a lot of people in your business.
Sure. So on March 16th, our provincial health agency shut down, not specifically my business, but every fitness and gym facility. So I went from having a commercial space and where I saw people in real life to suddenly everything was being delivered via technology. So there's a couple of big things that have happened for people. One is it actually, on the positive end, the digital shift makes things a lot more available. But then I also noticed that all of a sudden people were flooded with options. So we have a couple of different kinds of folks out there. One are people who already had fitness and movement as part of their daily schedule. Subcategorize that into suddenly March 16th, working from home, kids have no school. So that schedule was heavily disrupted. So even if we did have kind of a movement incorporated into our life, and we were making time to work out and making time for classes or privates, that might be something that feels very out of reach right now. Then the second kind of issue with that and challenge with that is just the technological sort of, we have to all catch up to speed on how do we use all of these platforms. I've noticed that there's a lot of fear and anxiety around them. What do I have to download? How do I get in? How do I know if this is going to actually be successful? How are all of these services fed out? So that's for kind of the folks who are already streamlined into incorporating fitness and movement into their life. The second group didn't have it in there. And so some of those folks are working and busier and, just even clawing further at how to get this into the life. And even just, I've noticed that there's a lot of guilt and even potentially shame around it, because we have, I actually haven't spoken to anybody in this position, but I do see Facebook feeds of people that are literally sitting around bored. And so then people are looking over at their treadmill and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed. What's wrong with me? How come I can't, like these other people on the Facebook feed? I'm not,
I see that in some
I've been kind of laughing because there's two kinds of people right now. There's people who've been bombarded with 2 months of work in 2 weeks, and there's people making cat shadow puppet videos because they're so bored. And so I think those folks have maybe even a bigger voice in social media right now. And so then if we haven't incorporated a movement practice into our day, we might be feeling guilty or ashamed, or like I said, looking over at these unused pieces of equipment or broken dreams of videos from our past that we're not incorporating.
Right. Yeah, right. People feel lost, and when they feel lost, they don't do anything. And then that's when the guilt and the shame and everything comes on, because they're like, well, I should know, I should be able to do this. It's a lot of shoulds and a lot of overwhelm that keep you from doing it.
Correct. And so then we have, again, just another couple of things that are happening is, one, most of us aren't even doing what we used to in our day-to-day life. So if we take that imaginary 10,000 step measure, a lot of us weren't achieving that to start off with. But no matter where we were kind of on that scale, I know for myself, if I was to put a heart rate monitor on, my daily step count just from walking around my studio, walking to and from, the bank or the post office, walking really simple, like to my car, doing that sort of running after my child thing, that's gone. And so we are collectively sitting a lot more, we're on our phones a lot more, we're on tech a lot more. And so now I notice that sort of some of those impacts of being sedentary are starting to settle into the body, especially with physios, chiros, massage therapists not being accessible.
Right. And, when I was working, I was in people's houses. Sorry, I think we're having a little glitch there. But when I was working, I was in people's houses, and we were doing these projects that people have. We were decluttering and we were organizing and we're moving stuff up and down the stairs. Like, there's some days where I'm carrying things from the 3rd floor to the basement, or I guess the 2nd floor to the basement, time and time again. And I'm not getting 10,000 steps. So even if you're in your house, moving, walking around and doing stuff for hours during the day, it's still not really fully exercise.
100%. No, I mean, I sort of laugh because I'm like, well, it's 10 steps to my kitchen. So we do that 3 times a day, and 15 to the bathroom, So I think that I'm actually going to be interested to see what those kind of aggregate data pools start to look like, because everyone with a Fitbit kind of still is feeding data into a system. Everyone with a phone is feeding data into a system. I'm sure that there's people who are actually getting more physical activity, but there's also people who are getting a lot less. And then I think this is also a time when, on a movement level, we have to really look at, was what we were even doing before actually working. So we have a culture, and I tread carefully into this conversation, but fitness culture generally tends to say more is better, higher intensity is better, faster is better, stronger is better. And at this moment, most of us have had this literal avalanche of stress on our life, and we have never really had a cultural conversation about exercise is actually a stress point. Eating junk food is a stress point. And so if you already have the stress point of, now I work from home, now my kids are home all day, now I have to take on homeschooling, now my apartment looks like, when we chatted last week, literally, I think 50% of the things that we own personally in our apartment are out on a surface or a floor right now. So what does that do? That adds stress. And so is right now the time to be taking on a high intensity fitness program? Almost every single one of my clients have gone the other way, and we're taking on these kind of restorative practices, and we're doing maybe some Pilates for the core, but it's not kind of this high intensity interval training, because most of us right now just don't need that.
Right. Yeah. Because moving your body and getting everything flowing in your body, I'm sure you have better words for it than I do, but that is going to, move. To me, it's like the stress is all in your head and it's all filling up here. But if you're moving, it like releases it. It moves it through your system so that it goes out of your blood system.
Yes.
So, you know.
So I want to really get into what you do, because I know for me, I definitely need that, but I'll just kind of quickly tackle my best advice for people right now. So my best advice is to take on a restorative movement practice. So one of the things that I do, and I did this kind of pre-COVID, was to do a morning yin practice. So I'm a lone parent, and which means that all of the responsibility of my entire household and my entire family falls to me. And I used to definitely be that, well, I'm still very type A, but I used to be that high intensity movement person. I literally ran marathons and I would do spinning classes, and I was definitely the more is more and better is better and stronger is stronger. To balance that in my own life, I took on a yin practice, and that is what I actually teach every single morning. What that does for me is it is a time in my morning before my child's awake, before that avalanche of to-do list items hits me, is I can be in a practice where I have sensations in my body. I can actually tune into those sensations, and I can have clarity and space of thought where even the things that come up, I can decide from a calm state of mind whether I want to address that now or later, or I can work out responses to things that were sort of bothersome in a way that my nervous system isn't escalated and elevated. So
Right.
I think that that is a base level practice to everything that you're about to share with us. And I do that because it works for me, and I teach it because it works for me. So those are not the only practices out there, but I do have that class available for anybody literally worldwide. It's at 6:45 Mountain Standard Time, which is 8:45 Eastern Standard Time. And that's my personal practice that I actually did well before COVID. So if you can carve out that hour, it is going to help bring your nervous system down and kind of give you that blank slate for your day. So then I think that what that does is if you look at the pyramid of our life, where we want to organize our homes, we want to have a system that works, we want to have positive family and interpersonal relationships, we want to remove some of the financial stress, we want to feel a bit like our life is on a linear pattern of success, the way that we did a month ago. That fitness piece and that movement piece is literally the base, because if your body is in this heightened sense of nervous system freak out, we can't clean our home. We can't wipe the counter off. We can't educate our kids. So we're going to assume from this point in the conversation that we all can take on that 45 to 60 minute sort of restorative movement practice. And then I'm hopeful that you can kind of share with us how we manage the rest of this chaos.
Well, right, because that practice is intentional. It's a decision. It really is the first step for setting the tone for the day, is using your time in an intentional way and purposely slowing down and concentrating on your movement and concentrating on how your body feels, so that you are prepared to start and you're not just responding from the moment you wake up. And
100%.
Because I know some of us have younger children. Mine are my youngest are in middle school, so they don't do this anymore, but one of my children used to stand at my bedside and wait for me to wake up, and then she'd say something to me. And I know people still have kids like that. They're waiting there, and then they're like, what's for dinner, as soon as your eyes open. So,
100%.
The more you can prepare, the less you're just reacting to that. But I would say, like, in this time, if you're really full of anxiety, getting to the point where you can think of it with a clear head is going to be a huge factor in your success. Because if you're feeling anxious about all of the problems you have to solve and you're coming up with solutions while you're feeling that anxiety, then all of your solutions are going to be full of anxiety. So if you start off your day thinking, oh my gosh, I have so much to do today, instead of, doing a practice like yin and centering yourself, where you're calm and your solutions are reasoned out, then your day is just going to go very differently if you start off like, oh my gosh, versus I'm ready to start the day, I can do what I need to do now. So it's not really so much about what you can get done in a day. And you're never going to hear the words from my mouth, we all have the same 24 hours in the day, why can't you get this stuff done? Because, science and math tell us that's true, but real life tells us that's different.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
The point for me is not for me to tell you, well, you do A, B, C, D, and E, and your day will be perfect, because that's not going to happen. I mean, you and I had all kinds of plans this morning for our Zoom, which was very simple. You do Zoom all the time, and it didn't work for us. But if we were just reactive and coming at a place from stress with that, then we might have said, well, just forget it. We're not doing it then. And I think that happens with people when too many things that they're reactive to, they just let it all go. And then, later you're feeling guilty because you let it go. And then you feel like, I have the same 24 hours in a day. So.
No, totally. The other one I personally dislike a lot is if it's urgent and important, it will get done. I can speak to the fact that I have 20 urgent and important things from this week alone that are actually not done. And then I do feel that sense of guilt and shame. And I feel like I have to explain it to other people or explain it to myself. How is that not done? And I do carry that with me. It's that kind of thing that you were talking about, which is I have that same 24 hours in a day. I'm failing. Why can't I do this? Other people seem to be able to.
Yeah. So it's a function of multiple things. And one is that, unless you are one of the people that are home alone writing this out, where you own all of your time, then your time is owned by other people that live in your house. It's not all your own. And you can say it, you can make whatever plans you want to, but when someone comes up to you that lives with you and has an issue or needs your help, you're going to do that. Right. But if you can start your day out, especially if you've got people working at home and doing school at home, if you can start your day out with a plan and you can tell people, this is the plan, this is the time I'm going to do this, and then I'll give you my time at this time, then they can usually figure out how to wait. I mean, you can have an age range for kids before that will kick in. But, you can come up with signals and things for kids, like a 3-year-old knows if you make a little sign, a little red stop sign, the 3-year-old can learn to look for that stop sign and then go find the other parent or someone else in the house if there's someone available, or that you can teach them that they need to wait for a minute. Maybe you can tell them they can hold the stop sign or something, give them something to do, but you can learn how to at least stop feeling attacked when these things come up. But a 3-year-old, if they need help going to the potty, they're not going to be able to wait for very long. You're going to have to deal with it, but they can at least, you can at least set your day up so that you're not just stress reacting to everything.
So what do we do? This totally applies to me. I am not somebody who, again, just like on the fitness category, we've got a couple different categories of people. There are people who love to plan. They've already got from their previous life, they love the day timer and checklists, and they've got this really effective system. They love color coding things, and that's awesome. But I almost guarantee that those folks already have this licked.
Yeah.
Over here is not a planner. I struggle. It is like the hardest task for me to kind of make myself into this linear, color-coded person that I actually am not. It's part of why I can run a business, because I can respond and I am kind of flowing and I can deal with change. But just the idea of, I would tell you, I don't even have time to plan. I don't know how true that is, but it's, you know what I mean? It's a struggle. It feels like so much effort. And then when things don't go according to the plan that I kind of cobbled together, then it is even worse. And I'm like, well, see, what's the point of this? So what do we do for that, for the us's out there?
Right. Well, I'm in that category too. I do not like having my day planned down to the 15 minutes. And I've been homeschooling for 13 years. My oldest does now go to the local high school, so she's remote schooling. The other two are homeschooled. And when I started off, I thought, okay, this is great. I'm fully in charge of everything because I'm the mom and they're little, and every 15 minutes we're going to switch, or 30 minutes or whatever it was that I did. And then I realized that while I had no problem ever like going to classes or doing any of my activities or any of that stuff growing up, and I still don't, I'll go to appointments, I volunteer for things. I don't like to be told, other than that, what to do with my minutes, even by myself. So I don't tell myself what to do with my minutes anymore. And I give myself blocks of time. And I know that I need to spend, this much time, on work, and that much time with the kids, and this much time making dinner. And I just try to make a template for my day. And so if something keeps coming up, then maybe I need to switch the blocks on my template. Like if my kids are always coming up with school questions in the mornings, then maybe I should have the school block in the mornings instead of the work block. Now, since we're all at home right now, I think that if you asked, well, you and I are self-employed, doesn't really apply to us, but other people, if they ask for flexibility from their employers right now, that they could get it. And so I think you'd be able to structure your time blocks a little differently. It's never set in stone, and nobody's schedule, I think, really is ever set in stone. These people that are really good planners, that have the giant planning books and they have their calendars and they have all of these things, they're kind of constantly doing it. They don't just set everything out and then that's it for the month or the year. They do it on a weekly basis. And so it is more fluid for them than it might seem. They just like to have the solid knowledge of what's happening when. And to an extent, we all do, because if you're working on something and something else comes up, say, you're doing school and something, you get a message from work, that in 20 minutes your school block is over and you can go work on that work thing instead of feeling like, oh, if I don't do this now, it's not going to happen, because you already know when it's going to happen.
Gotcha.
So that's one way to help stop feeling like you're scrambling. But you don't have to feel like just because you make a decision now about what your day is going to look like, that you can't change it another day if this day's plan didn't work. So that's what I like about the blocks, is you're just moving chunks of time around, and you're not, saying, no, I have to do it this way or else everything else will break down.
So what do we do? This one is common coming from my clients and students. What do we do when suddenly, this isn't just simply take our jobs home and carry on life as regular. Many businesses, many employers suddenly have this massive uptick in work. So the idea of working from 8 to 5 or even 8 to 6 might not actually be real right now. We might be 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So what do we do when the task list is actually bigger than the day?
You have to learn to be okay with cutting stuff off. So like just on a regular basis, for to-do lists, I do the master to-do list method, which is what other people call a brain dump. So I've got a big list going on, and I pull from that. But if you know what you're working on, you mentioned the things that are high priority, urgent, and forget what
urgent and important.
Urgent and important. If you pull a couple of those things off your list, you usually have some idea of how long it's going to take you. And then you need to add some buffer time on that, just normally, because you need to be able to transition between things that you're doing. But in this time now, when you've got other people in your home that need your time, and you're going to be called away, and other people are at work or having different problems than they would normally have, add a little extra buffer time. So we got double buffer time now on our tasks. and try and get them done. They're going to have some priority. Nothing is, very little will be totally equal with something else. So you just pull a couple of tasks a day over, and the other stuff, you get to it when you get to it. And, my husband, is an employee of a company they're an essential business. He is able to work from home because of his position within the company, but he still has to go in sometimes and handle things, and they still have their own deadlines and they still have their own outside demands. And so, you know, you have to juggle what really is a right now problem. And, you know, like getting, like for companies that he's in a medical chain.
Got it.
The supply chain, but he's not like making masks critical. So the companies that are in there making masks have one huge deadline and everything else needs to go to that. So any of the other business relationships going on,
pause.
That, yeah, totally pause them, put them to the side and say, hey, look, you know, I'm doing this, which is really important, and I will get to you. Don't worry. You just have to communicate, and you have to learn to be a little flexible and to not expect yourself to get everything done at all times. Be a little more reasonable with buffer.
So then when it comes to, we talked earlier about exercise, whether that's in your habit or whether that's a new habit, how do we wrap our head around the fact that, you know, if we have 12 productive hours a day, that needs to take a chunk of that?
You have to look at the benefits of it. So I'm sure you can speak much more effectively than I can to the benefits of exercise and the benefits of yoga in particular. But it's kind of like planning, because once you realize that the time you spend doing that actually saves you a lot of stress and time later, then you'll realize that that actually deserves a priority place in your day. Because if you are stress responding to everything, one, obviously your stress levels are high, but two, you're not going to be able to transition smoothly between stuff. You're going to be flustered for longer while you're trying to go through things. So if you can start off your day with a practice like yin, where you are physically and biochemically getting yourself to a calm, centered place, then you can transition through your day through your template that you've spent a few minutes planning in the day, and you can respond to the things that come up better because your body didn't start off in a stress.
So let's talk about, I've heard a lot of people, and this just talk about how it suddenly, we went from, we could maintain a clean home. Many people, I mean, I've had clients share that they had cleaners, some of them had nannies and other helpful people in their home that are now no longer helping. That may not apply to everybody, but all of us can sort of relate to the idea of, we used to, if we worked outside the home, I'll just speak for myself, I would clean my kitchen. My morning routine used to be do yin, clean my kitchen, and, you know, tidy up the living room. Then we would leave the house and I would come back at 6 p.m. and it looked the way that I left it. So, you know, there was obviously dishes from school lunch and my lunch or whatever, but it was pretty minimal. In the last 2 weeks, that has not obviously been the case. We're here all the time. That routine is completely gone. Certainly the first 2 weeks were very intense around our home, and things just kind of exploded because my son is all of a sudden honestly self-parenting. And so self-parenting for him means taking all of his Legos and Hot Wheels and putting them literally in our hallway to the point where I can't even walk down the hallway. So how do we clean our homes? How do we deal with the kind of being home all day, potentially loss of those household assistants that were helping us already stay afloat, of cleaning or maybe taking care of the kids or doing some of those things? So for some people it's a single whammy, and for some it's a double. So where do we even start with that if we're already in a hole? And let's say that we have been able to kind of keep it on a neutral plane. How do we kind of, again, we're talking now about finding more time for more tasks in our day. And so I'm hopeful that you can shed some light on how we even start with all of that.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. The more you're home, the messier.
Yes, totally.
Your house is. More time you spend at home, the messier it is. And that's something I definitely experienced. Any stay-at-home mom can tell you that they feel like they spend all day following their children around, cleaning up after their And so now is a really good time to start teaching your children to clean up after themselves. And it's not an easy thing. You don't just say to a kid, even a 9-year-old kid, you don't just say, when you're done playing with Lego, you put them away and then expect that to be it. That it's a lesson. It takes a while. They've already established a different pattern, and because you guys you're busy, your life was a little different. Maybe you guys did clean up together in the evening before he went to bed, but now you've got work all over the place and you're trying to deal with all kinds of other things. And so in a way you need them to be more independent, but I like kids to be a little bit more independent anyway. Now I still, have to tell my children sometimes, to remind them what it is that they need to do, but we've been working on this since they were toddlers. So even though we've been working on it for like 10 years, there still needs to be some reminders sometimes. And I definitely need reminders sometimes, but you have to decide what is your most important thing, like the one thing that really like bugs you, and make sure that happens. Like if I were to turn my camera around right now, I see couple of things that need to be hand washed. I see, because I'm in my kitchen. There's stuff that didn't fit in the dishwasher last night, and then there's a big old pile of mail that I'm not doing anything about because I hate the mail. I don't know why. It's kind of like scheduling my days down to the 15 minutes. I don't like to be told what to do, and I don't like to be told what to do in the mail either. Apparently, it's sitting there on the counter. So most of it's stuff that just needs to be filed. But those aren't things that bother me. But the bathrooms being clean needs to happen, and we have a dog that sheds all the time, so the child that wanted the dog has to vacuum every day, and we split things up so that it's not all on me. And start using charts, and don't make it this thing where you have to like check off a very complicated chart of who did what when and all of that. Just list the basic things that need to be done that day, and start teaching your kids how to check the list, or other people in the house. Sometimes other adults need help learning how to do these things as well. Sometimes you need to be reminded. If that's not where you normally spend your day, just put a little checklist and just start off with the things that are the most important to you. And then later, I think we're going to be, living like on the weekends, because there are people that are working full time and their kids are, all kinds of activities. You still have regular household cleaning to do that you would do on the weekends. So just because you're home during the day
100%.
Just because you're home doesn't mean you have to do all of the work in that same time. If you were already putting a lot of it in the weekends, keep it on the weekends. But it's to the people that were having help in before. One of my clients messaged me, and we had been working on a project, and she was going to keep working on it while we're separated.
Yeah.
And she messaged me not the Sunday we just had, but the Sunday before that, and she said, we just spent the entire day cleaning the house because their house cleaners hadn't been coming. Yeah. And I know her, and I know what she means by cleaning the house. And she meant they were dusting all of the things.
Oh, wow.
They were wiping everything down. And she has a pretty high standard for how she likes things to be clean. But I said, you have cleaners to come in. A lot of these things can wait on them. And if you need to pay them the extra fee, like when you first get a cleaner to come in, they charge you extra as they're getting everything to baseline.
Yes.
You pay them for a baseline cleaning again in a few weeks. Just do that. Don't spend your whole day cleaning.
Yeah.
It's not the priority. She's like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually think you mentioned something very important in there. Some of us everybody does actually, we all have retrospective, retroactive life decisions that we have made. Mm-hmm. So if you started homeschooling your kids 10 years ago and started encouraging them to follow lists and charts and doing chores, that's a very different position than if you started that 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And that applies across the board. That can be fitness, that can be finances, that can be relationships, that can be house cleaning and organizing. And so I think that, I know I struggle with this, but just kind of letting go, where we're all looking at social media posts from the people who have actually established these practices and habits for 10 years, who are trying, or 20 or 30 or whatever, trying to help the other folks. But when you're trying to get up to speed on homeschooling and cleaning the house and exercise and the undone hobbies that you were saving for a rainy day, that's just taking on a lot, because those things don't happen in 2 weeks for any of us. So, you know, I've been a fitness practitioner for 14 years. I can speak about my morning yin practice and it's like no problem, right? That's different than if you are trying to start that today. And same thing with all of the practices that you're talking about. These are not things that are going to be this linear kind of like, ooh, got it now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you've never run like as an exercise in your life, like no matter whatever kind of exercise you were doing, if you're not running, you're not going to be doing a marathon all right off the bat.
Exactly.
So you have to work up to it. You have to work up the plan and the stamina and the strength. And then if you're suddenly like, well, I'm going to run a marathon and I'm going to do a triathlon and I'm going to swim the English Channel, you know, that's
totally
that's kind of what it feels like for some people. It's just, you know, trying to go max on everything all at the same time, and you can't. And I wouldn't really even like go hard at establishing everything all at the same time. Some things can wait. So like with the cleaning, you know, you want your food services, you want your hygiene places to be clean. But if you're not dusting, and you know, if your sheets stay on your bed 2 weeks instead of 1 week,
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. So you don't have to try and do all of the things. Pick the most important things. And same with school. Like I see a lot of people with very young kids, like first grade, who are, you know, stressed out about doing school at home.
Absolutely.
But there's only 2 things that matter really for a first grader. And I say that having successfully brought 3 children through first grade. And that is everyday regular math and reading. So you read to them and you're like, hey, let's have lunch. Can you get me 4 slices of bread? And, you know, they count 4. Or you say, can you bring me 6 slices of bread? And well, there's 2 people. How many slices do we need? How many do we put back? You just make up easy math with them. It's everyday stuff that you're already doing. And when you're doing that stuff with them, you're also feeding their emotional needs because you're spending time with them. And then you can get some more of your stuff done after they have felt that they've been seen and heard and have had their bit of attention. Everything needs their little bit of attention, but your kids, if you can put your attention in with them in little easy ways like that, then you'll have a little bit more time to do your stuff. But if you're putting your attention in with them, sitting them with them, watching TV, they're watching TV and they're not calculating, I'm spending time with my mom. They're just calculating watching TV. But if you're doing hidden math with them, they're just like, I'm spending time with mom. They don't know they're doing math. But
awesome. That's good.
People that's more important than sitting with them or sitting them in front of the computer for hours doing websites. And then the older kids, they can do a lot of these necessary things on their own, but really for several years in grade school, the main things that you want to work so there's no backslider, reading to them and practicing their math, which don't have to be a major ordeal for anybody in those grades. So
awesome.
Then the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, where they have more they do need to do, they're old enough to do it on their own.
I love those tips. So just as we conclude, I think that I want to just touch really quickly on our culture of independence, which says, and has for many years, that we should, in our own independent family units, tackle everything ourselves and have this level of amazing competence where we can post it all on Instagram. There's a lot of areas for a lot of us where we just don't have that competence right now because we haven't focused on that for 10 years or 15 years. So we need to reach out for external supports. And that's why I actually lead fitness classes, because that is a category where you just need to set in that hour we have 168 hours in a week. So whether it's an hour a week or an hour a day, you have 163 other hours to play with, but you don't have to actually learn how to program your own fitness. You don't have to learn how to do anything. You just are with me, and I'm going to support you through that, because that's what I do professionally. And I've done that for many years. So I have taken thousands of people through this process. So I support people, whether you're brand new to it or whether you have been doing it for a million years, and this is a moment where you need some extra support. So just remind us of the ways that you can support us around our home, especially for those of us who that might have been a bit of an area of struggle to start with.
Right. So the thing about why people go to a live yoga class, whether it's in your studio or with you virtually, is that doing it along with someone who will give you guidance if you need it, or who's just there with you as just an emotional support, just having someone there with you, sort of like there in spirit with you. There's a reason why that is an important kind of support.
Absolutely.
Because working along with someone, you don't feel alone, even if you're like, you and I are probably, I didn't measure it out, we're probably 2,000 miles apart from each other. But if we were working together at the same time if I was taking a yoga class with you, we'd be together doing it. Or if you were doing coaching with me, we would be together doing it, because
I always say that we can all drink at home, but there's a reason that bars exist, right?
Right. Yeah. You need the social aspect of it. And I do that as well. I have live work days with me. I can do one-on-one. I'm going more for the group coaching aspect with a small group of just a few people who know what's going on in each other's lives, who are in the same places. And we'd get on and we would do our work live together so that we're not alone and bored, because housework is boring.
Very boring.
Right?
Exercise is also boring.
There are a few people who really like both of these things. They can zone out and they can be alone in their thoughts, but for most of it's like,
not the highlight of the day for most of us.
Yeah, they're too busy thinking of all of the things that they're like, that they don't like about it, or that's going wrong. Like, and you mentioned in the for us beginners, for anything that we're starting to do that's new, we're going to have a lot more of that. So having support of, at this point, online coaches and online instructors is all the more important to get us through that bit of feeling so lost and alone.
Awesome. So how do we find you, Miss Sarah?
Facebook is a really good place to find me. I do have a website, but both of them are The Home Shift. So you just search The Home Shift on Facebook, and www.thehomeshift.com is my website. What about yours?
Mine is My Body Couture. So it's MY space BODY space COUTURE. And I'm on all the platforms under that name. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, which is actually the best way to get me. I have a website, same handle.
Okay, great. Well, it has been really great talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
So I've heard a few dings coming and going. I don't know how this worked out since our meeting time had to change, but I think it went pretty well. And I'm glad that we got this chance to talk. And I hope any of you guys watching reach out to us with questions. Janis can teach you yoga from wherever you are. So,
and you can do the same for our home. So, well, I will catch up with you after our call. It was so nice talking to you.
Yes, have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. Okay, stop recording.